Hey everybody, John Wagon here with DevCentral, and we are bringing you another Lightboard lesson video. And today we're going to talk about the differences between an IPS and a WAF. So first of all, what is an IPS? IPS stands for Intrusion Prevention System, and then a WAF is a Web Application Firewall. So the idea, these are both security products. The idea is you have clients out here in the internet who want to access your web application over here, and as they do that, you need some sort of device in line to monitor, inspect all that traffic before you give them access to your web application, because some of this stuff is malicious and you don't want it to go there. So as clients want to gain access, you would put an IPS here in line, or you would put a WAF here in line. Again, they would have to go through that to get your web application. All right, the intrusion prevention system, I'm just going to kind of write a couple of things here. I'll put like IPS over here and the WAF over here to highlight the differences or similarities, whatever. Intrusion prevention kind of grew out of the idea back way back when before IPS there was the IDS, the intrusion detection system. And the intrusion detection system, instead of being in line, where clients would have to come through this in order to gain access back here, the IDS would actually sit out of band, like out of line, and it would just sit there and monitor stuff. And then if a threat came through, then it wouldn't actually do anything except just alert the administrators or some logging kind of functionality to say, hey, your application just totally got hacked or whatever. So that quickly grew into what is now known as an IPS, or the Intrusion Prevention System. So the IPS kind of does the same thing as the old IDS, except it actually prevents stuff. So it actually does something. The IPS has some of the functionalities or features of the IPS is that it's typically signature based. So I'll put SIG based over here. It relies on just on known threats or known vulnerabilities, and so if a request comes in and it meets a certain signature, then the IPS is going to block it and say you can't get through. This is going to grow with time, so I'll just say it will grow over time, which means you get more and more signatures. And there's kind of this debate on that. If you have a whole ton of signatures in your in your library, as it were, to be able to use against any kind of a request, then on one hand, that's a good thing in the sense that you're going to be able to block all different kinds of threats. On the other hand, though, if you've got tons of signatures, every single request that comes through, you're going to need to check those against all these different signatures, and it may slow stuff down. So, take that as you will, good or bad, but nonetheless, this is typically a signature-based type of a technology. It's going to provide like network support at like the around TCP IP. Alrighty, so it's going to be able to say check for like sequencing issues. I'll say sequencing issues, where let's say TCP or IP, if things come in out of not the way that they're supposed to, then it's going to look for problems like that. There may be some kind of a transport or network layer option that is not requested, that's not necessary. It could sanitize those things. So I'll put sanitize options, options that might or might not be necessary. Things like that. This one's got a what I'll call a broader focus. It's not necessarily looking at any specific user or session specifically. It's just looking at the broader scope of how are the TCP/IP packets and other types of requests coming through. Are they shaped properly? That type of a thing. So I'm going to say typically it has no user or no session awareness. Okay. So again, it's looking, from a broader perspective. It's not looking directly at, hey, I'm going to track this specific user or this specific session all the way through, the path. So anyway, it has its purposes. It does its thing. But I wanted to come over here to the WAF as well and say, what does a WAF look at, or what does a WAF do? A WAF is going to be, I'm going to say, application aware. Alrighty. And certainly for the F5 Big IP, we have the advanced WAF, or prior to that, it's the ASM, the Application Security Manager. F5, the Big IP specifically, is extremely application aware. That's what we're all about. So in this case, a WAF is going to be very application aware. It's going to be very user and session aware. So it's going to be able to track. Specific user, specific session that go to do specific things. It's going to be able to follow those all the way through and know, hey, is this a bad user or a good user, etc. It's the nature of a WAF is an application layer firewall. That's what it's, a web application firewall. One of the other things it can do is SSL or TLS inspection. So again, for the F5, the advanced WAF that the F5 has, you can offload your SSL session right there on the Big IP. So a client who comes in via HTTPS to your web application, you can stop that encryption at the Big IP, let it do all of the decryption, all the heavy lifting, as it were, because that takes a lot of computational power to do that. And then everything behind that, back to the actual servers on the back end, you can use that unencrypted, or you could re-encrypt if you need to. But a lot of people choose to just offload the SSL right there on the Big IP, and it can, once it offloads the SSL, then it can inspect the contents, the deep packet inspection, because it's a full proxy architecture. It can go all the way down, down the stack to look at everything, and then pass it on back to the back end web application, the web server. Another thing that we can do here on the WAF, the advanced WAF specifically, is scripting. I'll say. And specifically here, I'll put iRules, where you can actually write scripts on the advanced WAF or even the ASM prior to that, and you can do all kinds of things, and you can actually manipulate the traffic, on the wire in real time via these scripts that you can write and put those on the WAF. So that's a really powerful, very flexible tool that you can use on the WAF. Another thing that we offer in the advanced WAF is proactive bot defense. Proactive bot defense. That's a D right there, defense. So this is really cool because bots are a problem. I won't go into that whole thing, but you understand bots can be an issue. It can be used in various DDoS attacks or otherwise. And we can actually, on the F5 advanced WAF, we can actually proactively detect if a client or if a user is a bot or not. And before you even do anything to try to mitigate that threat, the advanced WAF can take steps to shut that specific user down or that bot down. So it has a lot more intelligence in terms of the type of user or client that's coming into your web application. So it can proactively step in and handle that bot action before you even have a chance to or even can stop it on your own. Credential protection, I'll say credential protection. This one is really cool. Credential stuffing is a big problem nowadays, where someone will steal all these credentials and then they'll try to access your web application with those credentials. The advanced WAF is going to be able to tell, hey, these are stolen credentials or not. That's a really cool feature, by the way. There's this database that we have access to that can say, hey, I know that credential that's being used right now is a stolen one, and so we can alert the user or the administrator. Even beyond that, just the act of credential stuffing, we can say, hey, this is not normal behavior, or this username and password is being used over and over and over again, or maybe this one logon, username and password field in this one web application is being hit over and over and over again, and that looks just like credential stuffing, a credential stuffing attack, and we can shut that stuff down. So that's another feature that the advanced WAF can do. Just in general, I'll say DDoS protection. This is, application layer DDoS. You look at application layer DDoS attacks like slow LoRa's or like HTTP floods or those types of things that are legitimate HTTP requests into your web application, but they're attacks, they're DOS attacks, and they will mess things up if they're allowed to come through. So we can provide protection against that as well on a WAF. I'll just put in general the OWASP top 10. OWASP top 10. That's the list of all top 10. We can link. We've got a whole series on the top 10. These are various security risks that are common out there in the world today. And frankly, the Web Application Firewall is essentially built to protect against the OWASP top 10, in addition to all these other things that it does. The last thing I'll list is IP intelligence. And this is really cool. This is something that that our F5 Advanced WAF has. We have this feature where we can tell if an IP address, specific IP address, is malicious or not based on some of the services that we have that we can link to. Other security providers that could say, hey, this specific IP address is a known bad actor. And so we have this whole database of known bad IP addresses. And so with access to that inside your web application firewall, even if a request comes in and everything's completely legitimate, legitimate username and password, the protocol itself is clean and proper and all those things, if it's a known bad IP address, we can stop it just because we know that it's a known bad IP address. So anyway, a lot of really powerful stuff here in the web application firewall side. But again, some people may have questions on, hey, I remember IPS and that prevents stuff, and then now we've got these WAFs, and what's the difference? So I just wanted to go over the kind of the broad view of the differences between. So if I could shorten it all down, the IPS is a little broader focus. It's going to look at just overall TCP/IP support. From a kind of a broad lens perspective. It's still going to block bad stuff, but the WAF is really going to focus in on being application aware, user aware, and have frankly a lot of intelligence that it can inject into the decisions that it makes about the traffic that it allows or blocks. So hopefully this has been helpful. Thanks for watching this Lightboard lesson video with us today. Hey, if you like this, you can click right up here on our DC Ball and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys out there in the community.